Welcome to the Cool Tools Show. I'm Mark Frauenfelder, Editor-in-Chief of Cool Tools, a website of tool recommendations written by our readers. You can find us at cool-tools.org. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin Kelly, founder of Cool Tools. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, it's great to be here.
In each episode of the Cool Tools Show, Kevin and I talk to a guest about some of his or her favorite uncommon and uncommonly good tools they think others should know about. I'm really excited for our next guest. I met her on the Joko cruise a few years ago, and we had a great time. Our families ate together, and so I'll let you know about Kelly Sue. She's a writer. She's best known for comics like Marvel's Captain Marvel, Pretty Deadly with artist Emma Rios, Bitch Planet with artist Valentin DeLandro, and DC Comics Aquaman. DeConnick and her husband, Matt Fraction, also consult on feature films and develop television as Milk-Fed Criminal Masterminds Incorporated. Hey, Kelly Sue, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Yay.
Thank you for joining us. We're really delighted to hear what kinds of cool stuff you have for us.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I had a very, very hard time narrowing this down. I want you to know that I spent way too much time on this.
Kelly Sue, tell us about your first tool, which is Other People.
Yes. Okay. So this is a big thing for me in my work and in my life. I am someone who has a tendency to process things best out loud or verbally. And probably the best tool I have for this is something we call in our house Talk to the Duck. Now, Talk to the Duck is one of those apocryphal stories, you know, like the lady in the elevator, or, you know, so it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, this was a friend of mine's aunt or whatever. And it turns out, no, it was everybody's friend's aunt. And so we first heard this story from a friend of ours who worked at Apple, and it was an engineer at Apple that he knew who had been promoted to overseeing several other engineers. And what he was finding was he wasn't able to get his work done because the people he was then overseeing would come in and interrupt his work in order to talk about problems that they were having. And it was part of his job, you know, as their manager then to be available for that. But he found that very often he said nothing, and that they would end up solving their own problem in formulating the question. And so he instituted a policy wherein they needed to stop outside of his office where he had a decoy duck. And before they could interrupt his work, they needed to first ask the duck the question. And if the duck was not able to solve the problem, then they were more than welcome to knock on the door and interrupt him.
Okay, so this is like a rubber duck sitting there, and they come up to it, and they have to first ask the duck, tell the duck the problem. And the idea is that in trying to describe it to this inner duck, you'll actually maybe even realize what the solution is, and then you don't have to knock on his door.
Exactly. Okay. And that is very much how it works for me. I will frequently solve the problem by having to articulate it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a shorthand in the house. I don't actually talk to an inner duck because
that would be crazy.
It would look bad, really. But I will go interrupt my husband, and I will say, will you be my duck for a minute?
Okay, cool. All right.
And he will just sit and listen to me and let me try to articulate the problem.
Yeah,
Will he active listen or just be like a
rubber ducky,
a crash test dummy? Yeah, rubber ducky.
No, I think it is active listening, but most often I don't actually want his suggestions.
Right.
You know,
don't solve anything. Don't solve anything. Just listen.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Huh. So that's a really great trick. I like that. Anybody can do that. It's really easy. You don't need anything. You don't need to buy anything. You just have to do it.
Right.
You also mentioned in your notes that you do mind mapping things for.
Yeah.
Is this something similar, or is this like would this actually be a tool that you use, or is this part of that same kind of process?
I use actually a tool. I don't know how clever I am in recommending it because I don't know that it is the best tool. It's just the one I've been using for a very long time. So I use something called NovaMind Pro. And it is a software, a mind mapping software. And I will use it to brain dump when I am planning books or projects. And I like it because I can get everything out. You're familiar? You clearly are familiar with what a mind map is. But for anyone who isn't familiar with what a mind map is, I believe the purists really want you to do them analog, to draw them. But it's a illustration, sort of really radiant thinking. So you'll put down in the center, maybe like draw a little cloud around it. You'll write the thing that you're trying to brainstorm. And then you can draw lines off of that thing and connect other little clouds or circles that you'll write in something else. Well, this idea is connected to this idea. And then you can draw lines connecting different ideas. And if creativity is defined by finding unexpected connections, I think that mind mapping is one of the most direct routes to creativity for me. And it also helps me. When I talk to students, I talk about how there's this thing that happens when you have an idea in your head and you think that idea is so good and it's so perfect. And we have this tendency to overvalue ideas and undervalue the labor involved in making those ideas into projects, execution. Right? And so everybody, especially like people in creative fields, when they're new, they have this thing where it's like, oh, it's my idea, my precious idea. And like, I just don't think ideas are precious. I think you have, 30 to 50 ideas a day. You just have to get in the practice of recognizing them. And so when you take that idea out of your head and you put it on paper, well, now you have some perspective on it, literally, right? It's like a foot from your face now. Now, as something moves away from your eye, you start to be able to see it better. And you can see the problems, and you can see that idea in your head wasn't maybe as perfect as you thought it was. And that can be painful. That's a hard part of the process because you feel so good about yourself when you have that great idea, right? You're like, I'm a genius. This is so brilliant. And then when you see how there are actually holes in this idea or there are things about it that don't quite work, well, that's crushing because that means, I have to do stuff, right? I have to spend time on this.
Does the mind mapping software help with that?
I think it does. I think it is a good way of overcoming the reticence to put the thing on paper. And it's a good way then once it is on paper or on a screen, as I have a tendency to do it because I like to drag and drop and rearrange and erase and rebuild. And that's easier for me to do on screen than it is with pencil and paper. I think that helps overcome that initial, I don't want to put it out of my head because I know once I actually start this, I'm going to find the problems because it's just like a shotgun blast of getting it out. And I find that really effective.
Okay, cool. All right. So, and that's called Nova?
It's called NovaMind Pro, the one that I use.
Pro. Okay. Not Probe, but Pro.
Pro.
And it's free.
Oh, wow.
Cool. Oh, no, it's not free.
It is not free, but I have had it for so long.
that is free now.
Yeah. The per year cost has dropped to nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great suggestion. So tell us about another one of your tools that you were wanted to share with us about plants.
Yes. So I have a fairly substantial collection of houseplants at this point, and I very much enjoy them. But they're a lot of work, and it is difficult to keep track of what needs what and when.
Mhm.
And so I have discovered this little app called Planta, Planta. And it is not free either, but I believe it is fairly inexpensive. And I think there's a free trial. And there, I will say this in the negative column, it takes a little while to set it up. I think it took me the better part of a Saturday to enter my whole collection.
You have a lot of plants.
I have a lot of plants.
Right. And so this is like a app that's on your phone, right?
It's on my phone.
And Android and OS, iOS, I imagine. And so you were kind of setting up this app on your phone.
Yes, I set up my app. So what you do is you go over to your plant, and if you know the name of it, you can just enter it directly into My Plants. If you don't know the name of it, you can take a picture of it, and the Planta app will help you identify the plant. And then you answer some questions about it, including where it is. And the Planta app has a light meter, so it helps you determine what the light is in the location that you have the plant in. And it may tell you, oh, this plant needs more light than what you've got here, or less light, or this is a great spot for this one. It'll also tell you, oh, this is a difficult plant. We don't recommend this one. And you can organize by site. So, I want to look at all the plants I have in my southern window in my living room. Or whatever. So you enter in all of these plants. Once you have them all entered in and you answer questions like, did you repot it? When was the last time you watered it? What kind of pot is it in? Because if it's in a clay pot that breathes, it probably needs to be watered a little more often than if it's in a ceramic pot that doesn't breathe as well because it's sealed. And so it will then, once you have everything done, every day you get a little to-do list. So rather than having to go around and check all of my plants, I have a list of plants that need watering, a list of plants that need fertilizer, a little list of plants that need misting, and a list of plants that I might want to take a progress photo of. And the Saturday it took me to set it up was very time consuming, but the time it saves me going through, I have, like I said, a sizable collection of plants, and I probably spend 10 minutes on it a day, walking around, checking the ones that say water, seeing if they actually need water, telling the app, I watered it, or nope, it doesn't actually need water, so I'm skipping it this time. And then misting a few, and then taking pictures of the ones that I might want to track their progress.
I really need this app.
Did you know if it learns? Like if it keeps saying this plant needs water and you go and says, no, it doesn't. Does it actually sort of learn from that and just tell you less often? Or do you have any idea of whether it's learning?
I don't think it is, and I will tell you why. And that is because I have one plant that is it's a Venus flytrap. It's actually my son's. And
I just got one of those.
They're fun. They're super fun. Ours lives under a hurricane glass, though. And I don't have any way of telling the app that. And because it lives under a hurricane glass, it does not need watering with the frequency that it would otherwise. And so I'm very often skipping that one. And that's been going on for quite a while. So I don't think it learns.
Right. Would the app work with, I don't know if they have like automatic wireless moisture readers or things that would be in a plant, and so it could actually tell the app whether it was watered or not.
Ooh, that's probably
be
like the
cool.
next generation of those things.
Yeah,
That would be
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
But I have a relatively green thumb on my own, but I have to say I have never been good with ferns. I cannot or could not keep ferns alive. And since having this app, which is like the most testimonial thing I think I've ever said. But I now have an absolutely beautiful, lush fern right in my front hallway that I actually think I need to repot soon because.
Wow.
What
a testimony. Okay, so you can do
great.
ferns now.
Yeah.
So
great.
Kelly, so just quickly tell me what's the hard thing about ferns?
I don't know if I was underwatering or overwatering. I am not sure, but I think I was probably underwatering because I'm always terrified of root rot.
Yeah.
But my ferns would dry out and just get really sparse and ugly, and now super lush and full and really beautiful.
Well, cool.
That's so. And does it? One other question, because I've been starting to get a lot of plants. Does it do like herbs like oregano and basil and rosemary?
I'm sure it would. I haven't added any of. I only have one of my outside plants on it, and it's because it was. I have a lemon tree that I have to move inside during the winter, and then I move it outside in the warmer months. And so that's the only outside plant right now that I have on the app. I haven't added my herb garden outside or my vegetable garden outside, or I have a couple of potted maples as well. I haven't added those to the app, but I'm fairly certain. I mean, it's pretty exhaustive. The database is really great.
I'm so looking forward to this one.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Planta, the app. Okay. That's really great. So,
thanks, Kelly Sue.
Yeah, Kelly Sue. So tell us about your sewing tools.
So I am an amateur sewist, which I do to relax in the evenings, couple evenings a week. I don't get a ton of sewing time, so I don't do a lot of big projects, but I really, really enjoy it. And I was thinking if I could recommend just one thing aside from the obvious, you need to have a sewing machine. It would be an edge stitch foot.
Well, explain what an edge stitch. I think we all kind of know what a sewing machine is.
Yes.
So I'll ask you a little bit later, maybe the machine that you use, but would most sewing machines be able to take a edge stitch foot, or do you need a special sewing machine? Or
no, almost any modern machine that you buy, you're going to be able to change the foot. And there are all kinds of specialty foots that you can do. And if you get into the super fancy machines, there's like crazy amounts of specialty foots. And I have a decent collection of them. I have one that'll hold a button and then the machine will actually sew the button on, which is pretty incredible. And feet to help you install an invisible zipper, and feet to do buttonholes. And those are all great to have. But the one I use as much, almost, I think, as I use the regular straight stitch foot is the edge stitch. And what that is frequently you will need to stitch right next to a fold or another seam, like really a millimeter away.
Not on the fold, or what do you mean?
Well, you can do that as well. That's called stitching in the ditch.
Okay.
And you can also use the edge stitch foot for that. If you are listening to this and you're in front of your computer and you can click on the link and open up what the edge stitch foot looks like, I will try to describe it for you. A presser foot, or a presser foot on a sewing machine looks a little bit like a spatula, and the edge stitch foot looks like a spatula that on the side of it has, at a 90-degree angle to it, another spatula. And that acts as a guide, and that runs along whatever you're trying to stitch next to.
The edge of that. Okay,
making
that's
it
where the edge comes from.
Very easy for you to guide your fabric and stay like really, really close, a millimeter from, or even in the ditch. So it's just fantastic. It saves a lot of time, a lot of pulling out stitches that you messed up. It's really.
So
great.
what would you use it for? You're trying to do what? And what is it? Are you trying to make a hem, or are you trying to do?
You can do it. You do it on a head. You do it multiple times in almost any garment that you're making. So, like, I made a dickie last night. You know what a dickie is?
Like a turtleneck, kind of?
This wasn't a turtleneck. It was a collared shirt, dickie.
Okay.
But it's so it's like a fake shirt that goes underneath another garment.
Okay.
So, so you sort of, it looks like you're wearing maybe a sweater over top of a full collared shirt, but really you're just wearing this little collar thing.
Those are cool.
Yeah. They're a lot of fun. And I made one last night, and there was a ton of edge stitching involved. So especially when you're doing something like a tailored cotton garment where those edges are very crisp, like on a collar. Mm-hmm. On a collar, frequently, you'll see that there's a line of stitching all around the edges of that collar. On a button placket, there's frequently edge stitching on the top right next to the side of the placket. Cuffs have edge stitching. They can be really just about anywhere. But it's that line of stitching that's right next to the edge. And
so the idea of this foot as maybe your normal foot is that there is like kind of an actual physical guide that help you guide the fabric to maintain that very narrow difference. And that's what it's doing, is physically is trying to keep it there.
Exactly. Because, as you're guiding the fabric normally, you might shift or wander a millimeter or two and you really won't notice it.
Right.
But in the center of it, in a center seam, a garment, a seam on the side, or, the underarm seam or whatever, you're not going to notice that much variance. But on the edge stitch, you really need to be very, very exact.
Right. In woodworking, we would call it you'd have a saw and you'd have a fence. This is sort of like a little fence for the foot that the material runs along. So that's really
that makes a lot of sense.
So this edge stitch foot that we have a link to goes to a Bernina sewing machine. Is that the kind of sewing machine that you have, and do you recommend it as better than others?
I do, but I will say it is a little embarrassing. It is way too big a gun for me for as little as I sew. But it is a extraordinary machine. My mother-in-law gifted it to me. I crazy love it. But
which one do you have? I know that they make a lot of different ones, and
I have
the pictures. They seem to have like a little computer screen on them.
They do. I have the 475 Quilters edition.
Quilters, okay.
And it is I had a white machine for about 30 years. It was just a workhorse, a really not fancy, entirely mechanical machine that I never had any problems with. And I still have it. And I did have some hesitation going to a machine that was computerized because now there's other things to break down.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's been a little bit of a concern But I have to say, just for what it can do and the quality and the speed that it does it in, it's boy, I sure do love it. But yeah, there's a little computer screen. I can tell it to automatically make a buttonhole. I tell it how big the button is, how big I want the buttonhole to be, and then I just change to the buttonhole foot, lower the presser foot in the position that I want it in, and hit go, and it does the buttonhole, and that's it.
Right. So one of my recurring problems with sewing machines is like even the fancy ones, you seem to have to still thread the thing, go through.
This is automatic threader.
Oh, this is an automatic threader. Well, I think you've sold me there. Okay,
yeah,
that's really good.
I think you sold, because that was always this. I mean, each time I go, and I kind of forget. Oh, where does it go? And so, but automatic threader meaning like it just like does it automatically.
Well, so there's you put the thread on the machine, and there's guides printed on the machine. It's like, okay, it goes here. There's a number 1 here, and then number 2 here, number 3. But then when you get down to the needle, you hook the thread into the threader, cut it, and then release the lever, and it automatically threads the needle.
Okay.
And if you forget how to do it, that little screen that's on the front of the machine will play a video for you, walking you through the process.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah. That's my speed.
Yeah. It's pretty great.
What I want is a bobbinless sewing machine.
Okay.
The bobbin always, I like screwed up the timing on an expensive sewing machine, trying to wind a bobbin the wrong way.
Well, the difference on this one with the bobbin is, first of all, it has jumbo bobbins. Mm-hmm. So it holds
that's nice.
A ton of thread. So you don't have to refill that bobbin as often, which is nice. And also, you can't do it backwards because the bobbin has one side that's metal and one side that isn't, and it will only go in one way.
Nice.
Wow. Okay, so you're really doing a great job of convincing me that this is so my question would be, there's all these different kinds, like, there's dozens and dozens of these Bernina machines. Do you have a quilting machine because you're doing a lot of quilts, or you thought the quilting machine was sort of the best for the general kinds of things you wanted to do?
I don't quilt. I don't quilt at all. So I chose that model because it did an awful lot of specialty stitching that I might want to do. And was within my rather generous budget from my mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds good.
So just to kind of, so we're not shocked, how much do they cost?
Well, I bought that and a serger at the same time.
And what's a serger?
A serger is it's an overlock machine, and it has so with a regular sewing machine, you have the bobbin thread on the underside, and then you have the thread. There's probably another name for it, from the top. So you've got the stitch that you're making is interlocking those two stitches, or those two threads, right? An underneath thread and an overtop thread. With a serger, there are 4 threads. There are 2 underneath and 2 on the top. And if you look at whatever garment you're wearing right now, if you are wearing a t-shirt or any kind of knit garment, if you turn over the bottom hem, there's probably a thick line of stitching along the edge of the garment that you're wearing that looks kind of decorative, and it's very stretchy. And that's an overlock stitch, and that's what a serger does.
Okay,
cool. So Kelly, so just in the interest of time, let's talk about your book. And if we have time, we'll go back to your coffee mug.
Sure.
But I want to hear about your Wonder Woman book that you're doing for DC.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It is a history of the Amazons from the perspective of the Amazons. And
Ooh.
yeah, I pitched it really big. I pitched it to be a Homerian epic with a woman at the center that begins with the goddesses conceiving of the idea of the Amazons and ends where Wonder Woman's story traditionally begins, which is with Steve Trevor landing on the beach. I pitched it to be 9 issues, 9 64-page issues, which to be collected in 3 volumes. And we are at this point approved for the first 3, so we'll see how it goes. But
Cool.
Wow.
the first book will be coming out October 19th. My partner is Phil Jimenez, and he is extraordinary, and he is doing really and truly the work of his career. It is just absolutely astonishingly beautiful. The second volume is being done by Jean Ha. It is also extraordinarily beautiful. And the second book rather, and the third book is being done by Nicholas Scott. So these are all accomplished, incredible comic book artists and people who are really invested in the mythology and the Amazons. And there are Easter eggs on every page. It is lush. Every time I post any kind of tease or image from it, people are like, wait, that's an interior image and not a cover? I'm like,
my God,
it's an interior.
So this is going to be a series of like floppies.
Yeah, it'll come out but oversized floppies. So they'll be actually larger. They're the DC Black Label size. So they're oversized, both, in the regular dimensions, and the issues are 64 pages apiece. So it will not be monthly. It'll be seasonally instead.
Right.
But,
and your role is you're writing the story of it then?
I write it. Yes.
Okay.
This is like major. How exciting.
Yeah. I'm really, really excited about it. And the whole notion was that, the classic history is written by the victors, right? And in the war between the Amazons and the World of Men won. And so you think you know the history of the Amazons, but what you know is not their history. And it begins with a kind of tabula rasa thing. So it begins with a blank page because it's the idea is, look, there is no such thing as a objective history. But so this is neither that one nor this one, but this one is ours.
How exciting. That's so cool, Kelly Sue.
Thanks.
So when can we expect the first issue to hit the stands?
That drops on October 19th, and you can find your local comic book store by going to comicshoplocator.com. And you can pre-order it probably through your local comic book shop. But if you don't have a comic book shop, there is a store here in Oregon called Books with Pictures Eugene. And I think I can send you the link to this. And if you order a copy from them through the mail, I will sign it and or personalize it for you for free.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And Books with Pictures opened. There were a new shop that opened literally the week of the pandemic shutdown. So they have really had a difficult birth into the world, and they have remained upbeat and enthusiastic and tremendous comic lovers and sellers. And so anything that I can do to support this shop, I'm really excited to do.
Absolutely. Wow. That sounds so cool. Okay, so what is the title going to be?
The title does not trip off the tongue. The title is Wonder Woman Historia the Amazons.
Okay. Wonder Woman Historia the Amazons.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, that's really cool.
Trips nicely off my tongue.
Yeah.
So give us a 1-minute version of the Ember coffee mug, what it is and why you like it.
Okay, I love coffee. I drink coffee all day. I'm a fast metabolizer of caffeine, so I don't have a problem with caffeine keeping me up unless I literally drink it right next to bed. But I have difficulty with, I will nurse a cup for a while. And so I have a tendency for my coffee to go lukewarm, and I drink my coffee black, and lukewarm black coffee is really nasty. And so my husband, who is always trying to give me coffee presents, got me this Ember mug, which I was like, I don't know how this is different from a hot plate. It's just going to burn the bottom of my coffee. This is ridiculous. I don't need this. And I love it.
Wow. That's great. Don't you love it when it's something you don't really expect you're going to like, and then it becomes like a part of your life?
Yes, it syncs to my phone.
What does it look like?
It looks like a coffee mug that has a matching saucer. And it has a little light at the bottom so that you can tell it's actually an electronic device. You can't put it in the dishwasher. You do have to hand wash it, but it syncs to my phone. I put in what temperature I like to have my coffee at, which is 135 degrees. And then it adjusts. So as I'm drinking the coffee down, rather than just applying a consistent level of heat to the coffee,
Right.
It adjusts to keep that coffee at 135 degrees.
Wow.
Oh, man. That's so amazing.
It doesn't burn it. And it doesn't, when you get down to the bottom, it doesn't get really hot. You know, it stays consistent exactly where you want it. And it's magnificent.
Wow, that is cool.
Do you have any idea how much it costs?
I think like too much. I think you probably shouldn't spend.
Well, it's a gift, so.
Oh, it's about $100.
Okay. For something you use every day?
I literally use it every day, yes.
That's well worth it.
Yes.
Kelly Sue, this has been a blast talking to you. Thank you so much.
Yay, thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Hey everybody, it's Mark from the Cool Tools Podcast. I want to thank you for being a listener to Cool Tools. And I also would like to let you know about our Patreon page. If you would like to support the Cool Tools show, as well as our video channel, the website, and all the newsletters that we do, you can go to patreon.com/cooltools. That's just one word, Cool Tools, and pledge any amount you want. You could even pledge $1 a month. Every little bit helps. We have editors, we pay for transcribing costs, we pay our reviewers. Every bit of money that you contribute goes towards supporting the show. I'd like to give a shout out to our supporters of the Cool Tools Podcast. This week, I'd like to thank the following Patreon supporters: Bill Schuler, Bob Kay, Brian Pelly, Carl D. Patterson, Chad Cosby, Chris Wieland, Chris Weirstook, Craig Tooker, Dan O'Brien, Dean Putney, Danelle Cunningham, Evan Barker, Graham Medlin, Hans Riesbeck, Helen Hegedus, Jerry Kearns, Jim Lesko, Jim Spofford, John Pollock, John Burdenbaugh, Keith O., Ken Altman, Les Howard, Lauren Bast, Mock Nerd, Malton Make, Mark Goebel, Matt Gromes, Michael Douglas, Michael Jones, and Michael Pecorini. Thanks to all of you for supporting the Cool Tools show. We really appreciate it.